Hey kids, howdy, and welcome once again to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology, and Dreams. We are sailing through January. Today is January 19th, so we're in the third week of the month. It's Aquarius month, because this is the week we move into the Aquarius mansion, and we'll be talking all about Mercury and Mars doing the same. First announcement about my next class, Jumpstart Your Spiritual Practice, starts on Saturday. I'm so excited. I'm in such a spectacular place in my own practice over the last 2 years, 2.5 years of chronic illness. As my body has gotten me more squeezed, my practice has expanded exponentially. Nothing's changed. I still do the same stuff I'll be teaching.
Yeah.
But I'm in it in such a yummy and delicious way. I'm looking forward to that. Sign up at michaellennox.com. So I got an email from Anonymous, not like the Anonymous out there, like capital A Anonymous. And it was so interesting to me. Well, and you'll see why. Can astrology predict autism? Asking for a friend, LOL. I love your podcast so much. A friend introduced me to it last year, and I listen every Monday on my way to work. My best friend had a baby early last year. She and her husband are so excited to be a family, but they are both having some concerns that their child is slow to talking and is not using words as much as they expected by now. I bought a reading for her baby chart as a gift, and then she puts in parentheses, I wish I knew you last year. And there was something they said about learning and cognition being maybe challenged, and this is my friend's first baby, and she's freaking out a little bit because of everything about autism these days. So my question is, can astrology predict autism in a chart? Would love to hear your perspectives. So the simple answer is no. First of all, autism is not like a disorder. It's a genotype. It's also a genotype that has been around for millennia and millennia and millennia. The minute we started gathering, we needed people who understood patterns, period.
Okay, I never thought about that.
Yeah,
but you're
it's
absolutely
never not
right.
been around. If it's accelerating out there in awareness, it absolutely comes from both more sort of social comfort with, diagnostics and an enormous shift in how we perceive it as this spectrum, which is appropriate because it's a genotype, not a disorder, and it operates on the spectrum. And there are people sort of in the middle to the top end of the bell curve of that are our scientists and physicists and discoverers. And when you get above that, we're talking about nonverbal. Now, that's the autism of 40 years ago, 30 years ago, even 25 years ago. It's only recently that we've broadened into this perspective of neurodivergence. I have a lot of interest in this because of my own neurodivergence. I'm not autistic, but I'm exploring all of these things excitedly because I love consciousness. And I've had team members who are autistic. I have a client who has created an educative model in the Midwest for modern autistic education based on more of what we know now. So I'm down. Part of why it interests me in terms of my own experience is that what I call channeling divine wisdom, a brain scientist would call pattern thinking that is operated by a section of your brain that's not ordinary thinking. So I find this way of the brain operating really, really interesting. And then someone introduced me to the telepathy tapes last year, an extraordinary podcast where a scientist went around the country doing really good empirical one-on-one studies. In other words, no control group, but how she approached these families and caregivers who were taking care of nonverbal autistic people. It turns out they are reading minds. They are reading the minds of their family and siblings, their parents and siblings, caretakers. This is happening with enough consistency that this woman was able to go around the country to find, through anecdotal tale-telling, people who have this experience. And then when they went to test it, they did very good closed systems, meaning nobody could possibly know what the word on the card was. Nobody could possibly interfere with them being able to give any kind of clues by being in separate spaces, and way bigger than chance. The non-speaking autistic people, knew what the word on the card was. Some of the specific stories are mind-bending. So this got me thinking about the age of Aquarius. I do believe there are more people generating into this genotype in the last 2 generations because it's more necessary. Energy's moving in a new way. We are in a new age. Life has accelerated crazily over the last century or 2. So that the human genome as a collective is responding to that by putting more pattern seers into the zeitgeist and the collective consciousness made up by individuals. What I also now believe pretty fully about consciousness itself, meaning not the material mind looking at it, trying to understand it, not science that can only describe the practical with a materialistic lens. The materialistic lens can never describe consciousness itself. But I believe in the autistic community, we're just looking at it in action, fully set up. And in the middle, in the center, and at the top are the nonverbal autistics who are plugged into consciousness itself so directly, they can do more than just read minds. They are plugged in directly to consciousness itself. Then they visit each other there, right? Then the layer around them where the sort of smarties and the helpful pattern, seekers are sort of bridging the gap between that realm and the realm where the rest of us are, which is most of us, sort of stuck in 3-dimensional consciousness, efforting to connect to consciousness itself through whatever means possible. The astrological piece of this is simple and quick. 3rd house, 9th house is thought and education. So I've seen things in charts that turned out to reflect slower learning disabilities, dyslexia, like Saturn or Chiron in the 3rd or 9th house. Certainly in the 9th house, it would be, you could be smart as a whip, but you might have trouble learning in a school manner because 9th house is education, right? So all sorts of things can be interpreted through those houses. And maybe even of the sign of Aquarius. I don't know, never thought about that. But the short answer is, no, it can't. But thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about something that has been filling my imagination for about 9 or 10 months. Well, that was some huge new moon yesterday, and we are very much still in the wave of energy. Any lunation, new or full moon, it's like a 3-day experience, and it's usually thought of as the day before, the day of, and the day after. So we're in this propulsion of energy, of startup and moving forward in a Capricornian way, but this is the week when the Capricorn dominance just goes away and gives over to Aquarius. Venus has been in the lead this whole time of the parade of personal planets, so she went into Aquarius just before the new moon. What I loved about this, and I should have talked about this last week, but I don't know. What I liked about it was we were sort of building the Capricorn, a momentum of what do I want to accomplish? What's the fixed earth experience I want to set into motion? And then just before the crack of the whip or the shoot of the gun or the start of the race, Venus moves into the sign of service, of community, of helping, others before self, Aquarius, and the rest of the planets follow this week. Today, of course, it's the sun. We are now officially in the Aquarius mansion. So today is the day that the Aquarius mansion begins. So it's like the first burst of new conscious awareness in every new year.
We're also approaching the Chinese New Year, actually.
Ooh, what are we moving into?
Let's see, I think it's like February 17th is the actual day, and it's Year of the Fire Horse.
Ooh, love that. That's a little close for comfort a little bit. But what I love about Aquarius coming sort of like second after the calendar New Year is that there's always an elegance in the evolution from one sign to another. And when it's between the cardinal Earth, moving into fixed air of Aquarius allows what we build and intend, what we feel responsible for as we enter the year and we think about the year ahead. The very next place our conscious awareness turns to is what's needed out there. What does the community need? What is the best service I can provide? And in spirit of like the question on autism in the age of Aquarius and the way in which technology is exploding right now, which is concomitant to the age, I'm actually loving that even though the personal planet parade is slowing down in terms of like boom, 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 one after another, they're still all hanging out enough that we are getting a individual like dip into or thrust up to whatever fixed air. We are exposed to these radical, revolutionary, rebellious, I'll be of service and I'll do it my own fucking way. Aquarius nature, it just is going to be helpful to all of us as we move forward. Which I've said this a lot about each sign that they've moved in together is helping us acclimate to something about the big changes that the outers are holding. And in the case of Aquarius, of course, it's conjunctions with Pluto. So that is also happening this week and next week. So let's break some of this down. We talked in the last episode about Venus and the qualities of her in Aquarius. She will still be there for, another 3 weeks or so. And so our emotional body's a little electrified in this sign. It's a great sign for cool detachment in order to approach things that might otherwise be harder or more overwhelming if we were in weepiness in our emotional body. Trust me, y'all who need to weep every once in a while will find lots of support to weep. But in a general way, for the next 3 weeks, we're processing our emotional body in a more intellectual way. And I just like the Aquarian sense of it helps us be who we are unapologetically. Today, of course, the sun joins. So our conscious awareness, led by heart, Venus leads, is now aligned also with this idea that for the next 4 weeks, we are aligned with all of the rebellious and technological and insight-oriented energy of this sign. Tomorrow, it's Mercury, and Friday, it's Mars. Now, Mercury is not anywhere near a retrograde, so he's moving at his typical pace. So he'll spend about 2.5 weeks in this highly intuitive, insightful sign. Mercury in Aquarius gets to see the whole picture all at once. I don't know if you know anybody like this, Zoe. I'm a little bit like this, and I've known people like this, where something's being created and a new piece of information shows up, and it changes like 10 other things. Mercury in Aquarius is the consciousness of getting it all at the same time. Very autistic, very patterned. But you think about it, Aquarius is the high octave of the mind. It's the mind operating at a much, much higher level than the three-dimensional Mercury mind. right? So when the three-dimensional Mercury mind moves into the ruling sign of its higher octave, then we are lit up with more capacity for intuition. You put it synthesizing ideas, which actually my sort of definition of intuitive is the ability to synthesize all the different information in the room, including the information that's invisible. Mars spends much more time in a sign, and he moves into Aquarius on Friday for the next 6 weeks plus. How we decide, how we act and do and approach our bodies, the goals that we're working on, work itself literally, all will be reflecting the same kind of out-of-the-box thinking, rebellious attitude, a willingness to take risk is very activated when it's Mars, because Mars is how we choose. Capricorn, no problem. I'm just going to choose the next step up. So even though you can think of Capricorn as a juicy, heavy sign in some ways, the decision-making reflecting Mars and Capricorn is simple because there's no choice. That's the point. It's nope, got to finish the task. In Aquarius, there's much less focus, but a greater awareness, I think, of all of the possibilities. Not from a Jupiter, woohoo, so much possibility, more from a mental smorgasbord of what might be what you want to do or focus on. So what I love about this for all of us is if there's a need to radically shift anything, your direction in life, what you're working on, how you relate to love and intimacy, with all of the personal planets now in Aquarius and our next new moon being in that sign, by virtue of all of the personal planets and luminaries moving into the sign of that new moon, even though it's a ways away, helps and supports, similar to what happened with the personal planets in Capricorn gathering for that crazy new moon yesterday. The one in February won't be quite so stacked, but we are being prepared this week to get more in touch with risk, rebellion, and a willingness to completely break out of old restrictions and constraints and try something new. Now, I'm going to come back to the personal planets in a minute, but first I want to talk about one of the major transits of last year and this year hits today. The transit in question is a sextile between Saturn and Uranus. First, just let's look at the timing. The first hit was last April, and the second hit was last August. And the third and final hit is now. Tuesday's the exact date, but it has been reflecting all the stuff that's been happening out there in the collective over the end of December, early January, which was way crazier than I would have expected so early in the year. But there you have it. This transit has to connect to that, because it's an early transit in the year, in the month of January. And this is both a stabilizing transit and a destabilizing transit. Saturn always stabilizes, and Uranus always explodes with electricity, causing sudden change and pivot and reversal because of that electrifying sort of way it has. Sextiles are productive energies, and if you got out of bed any day last year, you were productive with Saturn sextiling Uranus because, Saturn is a social planet, and if you did anything last year, part of your ability to be grounded and responsible while the world was changing at lightning speed, thank you, Uranus. This was, in fact, a stabilizing transit in a wildly unstable landscape. I went and looked back just to see. In April, it was like the peak of the trade war with China. That was the month where there was that deportation of the Columbia student who was deported for protesting. There were strikes in Yemen. The Iran conflict was heating up. Now, then in August, this is interesting because that was when there was a bounty placed on Maduro. And now in this third one, you know what we did down in Venezuela. So I'm always stuck when I'm like going to deliver a piece of information and I think, ooh, this one might cause some people to get a little frightened, but I'm also not going to shrink back from what's so. The idea that this is a stabilizing sextile is bona fide so, even though you can see crazy shit happened as a result. That's kind of like Uranus in April and August, and now saying, I got all this dynamite, I got a lighter, and I'm ready. And Saturn says, whoa, Nelly, slow it down just a little. I'll give you X amount of leeway to disrupt. This is now over. So there really isn't the same level of stability offered this year. After this, we kind of run out of stability. Saturn for the rest of the year only does things that are either like to rile things up a little bit, to cause some irritation and frustration. And in February, when Saturn and Neptune change signs, they do it together. And oh boy, that's, ideology and, squeezy lessons in the sign of war. So I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say. It's like, I'm just saying what is so. And listen, if you showed up to my astro overview for the year, this isn't new information for you. I talked all about it. Still available, by the way, by recording. So go get it if you need a little bit more lay of the land next year. But like I also always want to point out, every single one of these big, juicy outer planet and social planet transits from 25 and 26 also impact all of us. Not they impact, they reflect all of us at the individual level, just having good lives. Got it. Some lives are being destroyed right now. So I'm not trying to callously leave them out, but I'm letting you know from being, the people who are listening to my podcast, these are creative transits. And this one in particular, this is a transit where you had discipline and focus while at the same time being able to tap into wild amounts of insight and sudden information. When I wrote the first draft of my new book, it poured out of me in 5 weeks. Then I wrote like 80,000 words and I had to pull, 30,000 off. But, right, that's an example of Saturn sextiling Uranus. I was open at the top for the receiving of information to put on the page, and Saturn got me sitting down every day. Again, not to scare you and also to remind you, last week, this week is also creative, disciplined, and inspiring. Let that be your greater focus than the idea of we're at war. I want to finish today with kind of a weather report for the week, but specifically about the phenomenon of the personal planets since October helping us relate to the new big changes out there in the world, right? So every sort of passage, we would tell a different story of what it meant to be hitting the outers from Scorpio and then Capricorn. Pluto is one of those outer planets and the slowest moving one. And so the little astro dad joke is the slowest planet wins, meaning the slower the orbit, the more weight some a planet has to reflect experiences. That's why Pluto, the slowest planet, reflects slow change and transformation because it's moving at the pace of change. Then Uranus sometimes hits us with lightning, but Pluto is the bigger energy behind slow and deep change. He's hanging out at 3 degrees of Aquarius. Now, as each personal planet moves into Aquarius, they are going to make very positive geometry to Saturn and Neptune sextile and trining Uranus. But a conjunction is the strongest aspect that there is, right? Conjunction, then comes opposition. But conjunction is like an activation of the 2 planets' consciousness. And when it's Pluto, it's about the capacity to allow some level of change and transformation, often generated by a power moment. Power struggles are really about thinking that the other person has power when you have at least 50% of every interaction, right? And so when you orient yourself in consciousness that way, then every authority moment is an opportunity for a fight. And Pluto can transform anything like that with a conjunction, but you can't have a healing surgery without first cutting the body open. So I think the week can reflect pretty intense, deep things that occur in any number of ways because it's all 3 personal planets, Venus and the Sun. Mars will do this next week. Now, as I said, remember that Venus moved into Aquarius like just before the exact moment of the new moon. It means the whole lunar cycle has an imprint that says, though we're focused on goals and motivation and accomplishment in the lunar cycle ahead, internally, our heart centers and emotional bodies are leaning in the direction of intuition, rebelliousness, feeling good about risk, etc. And that conjunction with Pluto is today. So that means yesterday with the new moon energy and today when the actual conjunction happened, and certainly for another couple of days as Venus moves forward, we are in some intense emotional stuff. The positive element of this transit is about like purification, breakthroughs that happen because a breakdown might have occurred in the past, right? So this would be the breakthrough moment, right? If you're looking to share something with somebody yesterday, today, or tomorrow, in particular, that's like intimate at a deep, deep level, very supported. The challenge you always want with any personal planet and Pluto is all of the hidden things that can show up unconsciously in stuff. Like you can sort of feel a certain good way, but then, internally you're feeling sort of resentful and, ready to look at the darker side of an intimate connection because Pluto keeps the lid on the unconscious. And when he's activated, there's like no lid. And therefore, darker qualities of feeling and relationship associations can creep in, like, territorial disputes and obsession and stalking. And God, it's not cancer season. Everybody would be sitting outside of other people's homes in their cars. Yeah. Tomorrow, it's Mercury. So the mind is right after the heart. And similar, the, positive benefit is deep and intense thoughts and conversations, a willingness to go deeper in investigations with your mind and words and interactions, both internally and in interactions with others, Yeah, if there's something that feels really, really risky to say, it might be easier to say when Mercury's being impacted by Pluto's willingness to open the basement door. Now, similarly, you want to watch out for those creepy, unconscious ways that, power struggles and shadow can show up in your voice, and that looks like passive aggression and manipulation. So watch out for that today, tomorrow, and Wednesday in particular, but also all week long. Friday is when Mars moves into Aquarius, and it's also the day that the Sun and Pluto are conjunct. That's really interesting to me. First of all, the Sun and Pluto's relationship with each other is about conscious awareness and shadow. Think about the sun and shadows literally on the planet, right? The lower the sun, the longer the shadow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the sun overhead, no shadow, flat shadow right beneath you. Then the lower it goes, the greater the shadow. Well, that's conscious awareness too. When your conscious awareness is open, there's less shadow to have to grapple with. And that as the sun appears lower and lower and lower, toward the horizon, shadow grows. That's like Pluto opening the door to more conscious awareness of shadow because it's there, it's long, it's easy to see. When the sun conjuncts Pluto, the sun is right on top of Pluto, similar to what I described as high noon and the shadow. So my hyperbolic language might be when the sun and Pluto conjunct once a year, there is no shadow. That's not possible, but we can further interpret the archetypal story that the light of consciousness of the sun is pouring all of its awareness into the basement. So it's not like there's no shadow, but you can see way more of what's down there with a Sun-Pluto conjunction, which is helpful with self-investigation, with understanding unconscious motivations that are tripping you up, just anything that can benefit from some awareness of what motivates some of the darker, scarier, more emotional, like behaviors you engage in or experiences you have emotionally, because the unconscious is driving everything in life. What I like about the simultaneity of Mars moving into Aquarius and getting ready to hit Pluto early next week is, Mercury is certainly how we think about and use the mind and words to explore wounds and limits that we try to be aware of. But like the shadow is held by the body. The body is where it's all happening anyway. The present moment can only exist where the body is, and that's Mars. So that if the sun is sort of lighting up the basement when the embodiment planet has entered the room where Aquarius says, let's get you upgraded to a higher level of awakening in your body so you can march through your transformation with conjuncting Pluto next week, and then for the rest of our lives, our embodiment is, changed because of what we've been through these last few months. And as we move through this wildly, I know they're all this way, but wildly transformative lunar cycle. It's wildly because it's the one we're in, and the one we're in is always the most powerful, intense, glorious, and transformational. Have at it.
Did you know that Michael has a daily astro alert? If you enjoy hearing the weekly astrology, you might like knowing more about each day. When you subscribe for the daily astro alerts, you'll get an in-depth explanation of the day's astrology sent right to your email. Subscriptions are only $10 a month, or you can purchase the yearly subscription at the reduced price of $100. To subscribe, head over to michaellennox.com. All right, it's dream segment time. Every week, Dr. Michael will interpret dreams that are sent in via email or take a live caller. If you would like your dream interpreted on the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at dreams@michaellennox.com. Hopefully your dream will make it onto the show. Today we have Allison calling in from Los Angeles. Hey Allison, what you dreaming?
Hey, Zoe. So, for context, I'm getting married in May.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And I had this very gory and bloody dream, so I'd love your thoughts on it. So it was the day of my bachelorette party in the dream, and in real life, I'm not doing bridesmaids, but in the dream I was. And my mom, for some reason, was organizing it. She called me.
Oh, okay. Already I'm engaged. Okay, hello. right before your wedding, you're having a dream and mom is organizing the party. I love it. Okay, mom organizing. Go ahead.
Yeah. She called me on the phone right before the party and she told me a horrific story about something horrible that happened to like an older gentleman. She's a nurse, so she does this. And as I listened in terror, I started finding blood all over me. So I felt no pain physically, but as I was listening to her story, I started seeing giant splatters of blood on all my white clothes and like giant bloody membranes started pouring out of me.
Oh, Joe, like, I know what you mean
placenta.
Now. Yeah. Okay. Did you have that sort of association?
It felt like that in the dream because it was like a big kind of mass.
Oh, okay, good. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, splattering on you, but then appearing like a mass that resembled a sense of placenta. Okay, keep going.
Yes, it was like in the womb area, yes.
Oh, dear. So, it's in the womb area, okay.
Yes. Once it had all come out and then been cleaned up and discarded, we went to this party. And while we were waiting for the bridesmaids to come, my mom told me that it's a tradition for the bride to feed the maids her blood, and whoever secreted blood from the bride was somehow more loyal than everyone else. And
wait. Do you say this all again? Wait, because okay.
Totally.
You're to feed the bridesmaids your blood.
Yes.
And the one who does what?
Like secretes it out. So like urinates it, pees it out.
Okay. Is the most loyal.
And I asked my mom in panic, like, why didn't you tell me about this earlier when I was spewing blood all over the place? We could have kept some. Like, I was just so bloody. But now I have to like hurt myself in order to get this blood to give to people. And why didn't you tell me this? And she kind of just shrugged and said, I don't know. I didn't think about it. And and I was really mad at her because I didn't want to make myself injured. I didn't want to bleed anymore. And I didn't even agree with any of these traditions. I didn't want to do any of these traditions. And that's what I can remember.
This dream means absolutely nothing. Thank you for calling, Allison. I just love all of the juicy symbolism that your mom is in it, and you're getting married just brings in all of the generational ideas about everything: masculine, feminine, man, woman, wife, husband, bride to be, traditions, non-traditional. So let me start with a little just general information. Give me a little language to describe like you as like rebel, whatever it is that's causing you to tell us that you're not doing something traditional, and mom as either like that or not like that. Go.
Yeah. Our wedding is in my, like as we've been describing the wedding to people, we're like, we're not having bridesmaids. Like we're walking together down the aisle. Like we're not doing whatever. We're making it very much our own in the process because, a lot of my generational trauma has to do with marriage and like lots of divorce, lots of like upbringing stuff, violent sort of upbringing
stuff. Well, thank God, because now the dream makes sense, right? So now I don't feel like, holy shit, do we have to 5150 her and call a cop? Yeah, okay, great. And mom,
And mom she's also very nonconformist in her own sort of way, but very emotionally withholding, and I felt like how she was in the dream of like sort of putting me in this ring and then like, I feel like that's pretty symbolic of what's going on.
And it sounds to me like in there's some thread of you as I know who I am and I know what I want was also nurtured by mom enough to be fully present in you in a generational way. With also the bloody, gory relationship dynamics that are okay. So, of course, we are in premarital consciousness because you said so. Bachelorette party certainly is about circles of friends, and your role in community, even if you're like in waking life not having bachelorette party and bachelorettes, is that what they're called? Maids of tradition. The symbol of bachelor party still means the celebration before a change in related dynamic, a shift out of circles of friends of, we'll say women to partner first, right? So it has that symbolism, not literal. So we then know that you're in consideration of the pre and therefore the celebration and the cost, right? It's a dream. It's not a bachelorette party. At a party, we'd be like, woohoo! Not like, and don't forget how fucking hard it is and how much you give up and how generational. Like, we don't say that at a bachelorette party, but we do in a dream bachelorette party. Mm-hmm. Mom's organizing. So right there, we know the dream is all about the generational and probably not so much about the affirmative rebellious nature in you that knows who you are, because dreams don't truck with that. They don't give a fuck, right? You don't need help with that. But the dream will say, okay, where is their unconscious resistance? And that the obvious blood and placental is generational and female and women-oriented and womb-oriented based on what's coming next. Is it comfortable for you to reveal to us what your feelings about children are?
Totally. I love that you asked this. I'm not planning on having any children.
Oh, my fucking God. I love this dream now. Oh, fuck. Oh, excuse me.
No, I love it.
Oh, God. Good job, so. Okay, do you want to say any more about that?
No, I've just always known from a very young age I didn't want to have children.
So then the dream is about ending something that is generational, that the birthing is you in a way, like you being covered with blood and the placenta externally landing on your womb, to me, is almost like you being fed by what's important to your creative part of your body, the womb. You're in white, which is interesting because the brides-to-be wear white at the party, traditionally. I
think sometimes, yeah.
Okay, at any rate, it's all about the breaking of the purity into what's going to rip, in the traditional part, literally rip the hymen, cause the blood to flow through procreation. Then we're in dreamland symbolism. Yeah, it's all about cleaning this out and discarding it. The ipso facto tells us what's true. That you cleaned it out and discarded it is part of the storyline, and then you go to the party? That means the discarding counts. And there isn't enough, there isn't enough other conflict energy in that part of the dream to make me say, wait a minute, are you resisting something? So then we have to then take a look at who's this friend with the dialysis machine? Is there a friend in life that she resembled or that any of them resembled, or was it just dream chicks?
None of the friends showed up in the dream. We were preparing for them to come. There was like a lot of
so it was an idea that you have to feed them the blood first. It was a fact
yes, it was like we were preparing for them to come so that way, right as they came, I could feed them the blood to figure out who was the most loyal.
Okay. So this part is less clear to me. I think partly because it's less clear, because I sometimes say it this way. Very often, some dreams ask more questions than they give answers. This dream does both. It answers fabulous questions in the first part, and at the end, there's this wrestling. You're panicked. You don't want to do something that's self-destructive, but you don't know yet what to do, right? And, mom ain't helping, the generation ain't helping. So it is something about being the first to express not maternal progeny in the lineage somehow. Does this... So say something a little bit about what I'm saying, because I'm just like floating through what comes out of my mouth.
No, yes, I would love to say.
And you're nodding, so tell me.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense to me, and particularly around the fear of the self-inflicted harm, around like, I have a lot of fear around like getting it wrong, or like doing the wrong thing and marrying the wrong person, or, just because I've seen it go so south so many times. So I think, and she, even in her own life, has told me, she would have done it differently with her current partner and all of that.
Got it. So the panic and the why didn't you tell me is like, I want this to be easy, right? So it's like, but no. What I love then about the other side of it's not going to be easy, the dream tells me that these friends who don't appear are aspects of you, because everybody's an aspect of you. And the fact that they're not in form in the dream makes it even more about you, the dreamer, because there isn't an image to incorporate where they're like showing up as separate aspects there. So I know that those friends are just different aspects of you, and one part of you knows how to excrete the toxicity on a daily and regular basis. And you have to remember that. So there's a big percentage. By the way, fourth wall, she's got her mouth open.
Gasped.
Right? So that's like, let's say there are 4. I'm making that up. 3 of them are like representing the bulk of you that's just a woman on a journey who will shift the journey soon to, do it with, someone else walking next to you. And there's a part of you that knows exactly how to not hold the toxicity in intergenerationally, but piss it out. Damn! I loved this dream because I really didn't know where we were going to go when I started. So it was one of those experiences where I was discovering the interpretation as we were tripping through it. Lots of fun.
I've been waiting to find the right dream to send to you, and I had this one on Christmas Eve at my fiance's mom's house. And I woke up and right away I emailed Zoe. I was like,
"Listen, Zoe has a knack. I mean, I apologize to everybody who sends in dreams where we don't get to them, but we do get a little overwhelmed. But it's one of the things I value about Zoe is that they know how to just let whatever they do to choose. I was talking about the body. Let the body choose. I don't know how Zoe frames that, but this was awesome, Allison.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations on the upcoming nuptials.
Thank you. Can I ask you a question about a dream thing? So I dream a lot about like gore and like this blood experience. Is there a general symbolism for that, or is it always different within the context?
This is something that I've been thinking a lot about because I'm writing a book for beginners on dream interpretation, and this idea that I'm going to talk about isn't going to be in the book because it's too heady and too advanced, but people have dream signatures. Those dream signatures are often consistent throughout a life. Not everybody has them so clear and coalesced, but this is what we're talking about. Every dream is that I'm in a community and blah, blah, blah happens. I did a circle with some cancer folk for like 4 or 5 years, and there was this one dude who was it was always the Old West. Like every dream he thought, so yours is gore. So it just means that there's a nice alignment between the way your psyche opens the door to the unconscious that's through those colors. I believe, and I don't know when I'm going to do this freaking research, but I believe that the placement of Neptune in the astrological chart might describe this, because my Neptune is in the 11th house, the house of community.
Mine is in the 3rd.
I wonder what that means. I'd have to look at other aspects, but let's not trip off onto too much that's out of the lane, because we got to wrap it up here. But Allison, this was delightful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to Conscious Embodiment, Astrology and Dreams with Dr. Michael Lennox. You can find us on Apple Music, the iHeartRadio app, and anywhere you find your favorite shows. Head on over to michaellennox.com for information on astrology readings, the Daily Astro Alert subscription, upcoming classes, and to join the mailing list.